Hello, you're welcome back to the show. Many thanks for staying with us. Now, this afternoon, he's breaking the Twitter trends in Ghana. That's Evans Mensah, head of JoyNews' political desk and host of flagship programs Top Story and News Night on Joy FM. If you watch Joy News, Evans also hosts PM Express on weeknights right here. Well, he's trending not only because the commissioners investigating the Yawaso West Wuogon by-election violence consider him a media idol, but also because of his intelligent and insightful delivery as he gave evidence before the Justice Emil Short Commission. As a non-target witness, Evans, flanked by lawyer Samson Ladi Ayenene, also host of Newsfile here on Joy News, gave many ideas on dealing with vigilantism and the role that the media can play in addressing that problem, threatening to derail the country's democratic processes. Now, this afternoon, we've put together experts as we analyze those suggestions. We'll bring you excerpts of Evans Mensah's submission shortly. But before he took the microphone, his lawyer, Samson Ladi Ayenene, has some initial remarks. We'll bring you Samson Ladi's remarks shortly, but listen to Evans.
Before the elections, we had planned, and on the day we deployed a total of 3 reporters to cover the by-election. And they were asked to go around the polling stations. I mean, there were more than 100 polling stations. It's impossible to have a man in each polling station. So in essence, they move around from polling station to polling station, and also had built contacts. If something was happening somewhere, you get a call and then you rush there so that you can get the live, up-to-date coverage for our listeners. In essence, that's what election coverage comes down to.
Now, there's been reports of certain incidents during the election. Did your men cover any of the incidents?
Yes, my lord. The incident that we are aware of which has become very topical because my domain is in media, is the Laba election incident. And that incident, yes, we had a man on the ground who covered it for us. Yes, my lord.
So whilst we're talking about vigilantism and violence and, you know, the root of all of this discussion, one of the key things that's happening in this country right now is that we're talking about our security infrastructure, reviewing our security infrastructure, using what happened at Yawaso West Wuogon as a point of reference, and rightfully so. So I told you earlier how Evans Mensah, head of our political desk today, you know, was at the commission, of course, helping with the work of the commission to unravel, you know, what exactly happened over there. Evans, earlier, you heard what he had to say. Well, he has some suggestions as to how to deal with this, which is one of the key areas that the commission engaged him on. Let's listen to Evans again, and when we return, we'll have a conversation with the man himself.
One of the key things these audience of ours have suggested is to depoliticize our security agencies, starting with the police. A key recommendation that I've heard from our audience to us is to give the IGP security of tenure. That's one. Even take away the power of appointment from the executive and put it in a sort of a commission of other security or people qualified, neutral people, people other than political class, to make that appointment. I have also heard from our audience a recommendation that even the post of an IGP, just like we have in the lower ranks of the police where promotions are based on the exam and assessment, should be one that people so qualified should apply for, and a competitive process use to select the very best. That is one. For the group of audience who recognize that we're almost at the point where it appears the horse is already bolted from the stable, which is that the vigilante groups are already with us. They suggest, one, the political parties must be made, and there's a lot of talk about this, and you get a sense from our audience that they're fed up with the mere talk and no action. The political parties must be made, compelled either by law, to immediately disband these groups. Not only disband the groups, disarm the groups. Because I've heard members of the audience who listen to Joy FM or the JoyNews on television say to us that if you only disband, we know that some of these individuals are armed. What do they do with the arms they have if you only disband? There must be a deliberate process to disarm them, either through an amnesty system, which we've tried in the North before, where guns were washed in the North. We provided an amnesty. People can bring their guns, either for a reward. The state is buying back the guns. That's one suggestion I've heard from some of my audience, as in how that can happen. And there's another layer of suggestion I've heard, which is how do you deal with the fundamental mistrust that mainly parties in opposition have for the state institutions, because they feel the institution is politicized? There must be, another suggestion I've heard is to deliberately come up with a strategy that builds bridges between the police and the political parties on a regular basis. You can have a regular forum where they interact. They have direct access to the system, the police system, just as the incumbent party would. And if it's agreed that the man at the top is not appointed by the political class, but by a neutral system of peers or another body not political, that then could be a confidence-boosting measure. That's another suggestion I have heard from some of our listeners who have participated in some of the shows that we've done on this subject and will continue to do, my lord.
So it's a lot of information there, but we'll try and break it down so you take something out of this discussion. Indeed, we're looking to achieve something with it. So how do we end vigilantism? Basically, that's at the heart of the conversation. Well, the Commission wanted the media to step up its fight in their own way, just like they did in the case of Galamsey. And today we begin with that conversation. In the studio with me is Evans Mensah, the man who gave that wonderful presentation today. Evans, you're welcome.
Thank you very much.
You're still breaking the trends, aren't you?
I'm breaking the trends, you're telling me.
That must make you feel good.
I have no idea I am.
Okay, and I also have on the phone security analyst Vladimir Entry Danso. He will join in the conversation. Mr. Danso, thank you very much. Dr. Danso, thank you very much for your time this afternoon.
You're very welcome.
And also, listeners. Right, thank you. And also the PPP's General Secretary Murtala Muhammad, who also appeared before the Commission yesterday, joins in this discussion. Murtala, you're welcome.
Thank you, and thank you for the opportunity.
Okay, I'm going to start with my colleague here in the studio, Evans. I just want to find out from you. Better still, let me go to Murtala because he was there earlier, yesterday. Murtala, how did it feel for you? Describe for me the process for you yesterday.
Well, I expected it to be as it was. I mean, after taking your oath, you answer questions from the commission. I think that's what happened. Apart from that, I think I was as frank as I can be. The things that nobody will tell you, is what I told them. I mean, the things that politicians speak about or talk about at funerals and beer bars are the things I told them. I must tell Ghanaians what we think and how we think and how we do things.
I'll come to you with some of the suggestions that you made, but let me quickly engage Dr. Vladimir Chudanso because he was in a meeting. Doc, thank you for your time once again in this discussion. I'm sure you followed what happened between yesterday and today. It's been an, a mix-up, if you like, of police officials giving their testimonies, and then some persons, Mutala from a political party, Evans Mensah from the media. We're expecting more media people, we understand, to also appear. What do you make of the process so far?
Well, the process is a normal process, a normal constitutional process, and I'm happy that for once, the head of state has set up a commission to look into it and come out with a finding. Before then, we have had several such infractions, and nobody dares to do anything, and they go away, and then we come back to square one, we start doing it again. So for me, they're a very good thing, and these are very respected persons in society. The former IGP knows everything. He's been in security for so many years. He rose to the rank of the IGP. Mensah is a known guru in international law, in law itself, and he's been part of several such commissions also already. And if you talk about Emil Short, so these are tried and tested persons. So it's unfortunate that some people will want to boycott such a good thing. It's for the whole of Ghana. It is something that we are going to come out with good findings, and some of us in research into that area know why it is self-festering and what we think should be done to stop it. And one of the things is exactly the setting up of this commission, and as you rightly put it, all of us, especially the media, giving it that push, that necessary push to stop it out of our society.
And speaking of boycotting, there were reports like that earlier, but we understand that the Member of Parliament for Ningo Prampram, who is of the NDC, will be appearing on the committee. But let's look at some of the things to hear. Right. Let's look at some of the suggestions that came up. Evans Mensah, my colleague, is here with me today. He was at the commission, and one of the things that they spoke about is how to end this political vigilantism, which Professor Mensah Bonsu doesn't think is the right expression for this, the work that these people do. She thinks that they are more of private militias who are answerable to people she is describing as warlords in these political parties. The point that she makes is that these people should be given a sense of duty. When you take them and you give them a uniform, you give them training, they're regulated. She believes that is the way to go, which is in line with the suggestion that Evans was making. From your perspective, does this work?
It is possible, but we need to be very careful. Already, the recruitment into these services, especially the national security apparatus, is done on political lines, which is very bad. And that is why most of the political parties are beholden onto them. They are a law unto themselves. We tried it before. We created a 64 battalion. That was a law unto itself, because we don't have 68 battalion, we created 64. And the party became beholden to the 64 battalion until President Kufuor tried to change them. But we need to do it and do it carefully like President Kufuor did. We need to check the background of every single person. Some of them are just thugs. Some of them are just bad guys. If that suggestion will be taken, I would have thought that if we raise the economy up very well, these people have not trained themselves in anything like security. And that is why what happened in Iowa also happened. What happened in Nigeria and others happened. They've been trained in nothing. In security matters, at times when you apply, it takes about 2 years before you are called for interview. Because the BNI or any other agency thereof will have to check your background thoroughly. Then you become a member of the national security, not regime security. So we need to be very careful when we give these people arms and say we have trained them. They still are loyal to some political party. It happened in Sierra Leone. And when it came to the crunch, then they remembered where they belonged. And that was why the whole thing happened. So that suggestion may be good, but we should be very careful at it.
We should be very careful. Let me come to Evans. Evans, earlier today, you when that question came to you earlier, and I'm going to talk to you about how you felt, but we'll go into that later. But when that question came to you earlier, you said that you did not think that was disbanding this group was the way to go. But
no,
later,
it wasn't the disbanding. It was about integrating them
into the system.
Integrating them into the system.
But later, you seem to have had a change of mind.
Not necessarily. I mean, the Mensah Bonsu added a different layer of the conversation. The chair of the commission had just stayed at the integration into this official security agency. And my point was that we've already seen unofficially the parties, when they come to power, tend to integrate the people anyway, and which breeds the mistrust. So the party in opposition sees that they've integrated. And even now, as I cited, the NDC is claiming that they've seen people in the national security uniforms who they knew were MPP activists. Okay, so if you then formally integrate, that then becomes a problem. It just breeds a cycle.
But then there will be an NDC NPP sort of group.
But then Madame Harriet Mensah Bonsu introduced a different layer of this, and she drew on the experience from the continent, where we've seen that in cases of war and conflict after this peace, to get a society to move on, they grant an amnesty and they integrate both sides into the regular army, regular forces, etc. We've seen that work. But the thing that she said that I guess led me to agree was the fact that it is done fairly and equally for all political groups, whether they are in power or not.
Which is a point you made.
Yes,
there.
That is where I agreed with that suggestion. That if you are going to approach it from a very fair-minded point of view, where you apply that principle to all the political parties, you grant an amnesty, you say, in essence, how is what elsewhere? You say, if you have a vigilante group which is armed, we are granting an amnesty to the people. Those who committed crimes will be prosecuted. Those who are still in it, yes, it's illegal because the Constitution forbids anybody from raising an army, yet we'll grant an amnesty and we would integrate you into our security agencies formally. But this will apply to everybody, and it's fair, and it's done by an institution that is not politically controlled. If you do that, just based on what has happened elsewhere, that has shown that it works. You can apply that here, but it has to be fair. It has to be applied across the board.
Doc, applying this across the board, is this workable? Do you see things? Because if you look at if we want to apply what has happened elsewhere, they were involved in civil war. There was war. People were fighting. But in this particular case, these are political parties who will laugh. They'll fight in the media and still laugh. It's very subtle. It's not the kind that is happening elsewhere where people are fighting, Is that a model that can easily work in Ghana's case?
Exactly. That the genesis for those called vigilantism, say in Rwanda or elsewhere, it's not the same as ours. Ours are politically inclined to start with, and then just for one purpose, winning election. Beyond that, they want to be rewarded. Beyond that, the next elections, they are being used. So it is not a war situation where you have to retard them, reintegrate them into the society, into the military, like we did it in Sierra Leone, and Madame Mensah Bonsu has a big experience on that in Liberia, for example. Ours is a completely different case. If we make the mistake of integrating them not in a proper way that I'm talking about, what shows that new vigilante groups will not crop up just because of the election. Just because
so then we'll have a phenomenon where people are creating these so-called groups because they know they will be integrated somehow.
Exactly. And remember, we now have 17 groups now and counting. 3 of them have decided and openly that they were going to now register as companies, and then any like the Blackwater kind of group which was used in Iraq, and then if any person or group of persons or parties want their services, they would render their services.
Can I say something?
Where we have reached?
Yeah, yeah, so that's the danger right there. We have 17, you say, and 3 of them want to register as formal security provision companies.
Just thinking about it again, it's a very fascinating proposition and you notice that the chair and Mensah seem to have that as a suggestion.
Yeah.
But I think why they did that today with me was to throw it out there so that we can debate it.
Continue the
so by the
conversation.
time that they come to a conclusion, the commission's work, I mean, we will have formed a first sense of a national opinion on this, you know, a consensus on this proposition. Because when Madam Mensah, when the chair made the suggestion, I understood where he's coming from, because it goes to the fundamental question of, once you disband and you disarm, what do you do with them?
What next?
What do you do with them? Because they still have skills. Those skills, if not properly channeled, could be used for crime, armed robbery. I mean, you've taken the arms away from them, you've disbanded them, they are unemployed, they are dangerous. So we need to solve the problem of what do you do with them? And that is what the commission is thinking about. And it's a very good thing to do, because if they recommend disband, which we've been talking a lot, but nobody has gone the extra mile to say, once you disband, what happens?
Next?
So that is one suggestion, right?
Can I come in?
Yes, I just want to make one single point. The reason why that suggestion, I kept on thinking about this, and I keep on coming back to my original position, which is that I disagree. Because I've just been chatting with people who know this and been in the conflict zones, and they tell me that we cannot apply post-conflict, failed state security solutions for a functioning democracy.
Exactly the point I
was
making earlier.
We are a functioning democracy. Institutions work, and we have the failings sometimes. But these countries where we point to as where they apply these principles, they were a post-conflict zone, almost failed states. It's different from what we have, and it might not necessarily work here.
In this case. And the social psyche, which Professor Mensah spoke about again, is also different.
Yeah.
The people there and the people here, we all have different different psyche. So, Doc, you wanted to make a quick intervention on that.
Yes. Virtually, Evans are taking the wind out of my face, straight out of my wind. The point is this, that straight away, the historical narratives are different. Number two, what are the sources of our vigilantism? Why has it become a profitable enterprise? Are we not sure if we take the root causes of vigilantism, they will die a natural death? We have the Constitution. If we allow constitutionalism and institutionalism to work, the political parties will find no way to hide their head.
Okay.
And so we must be looking at that. Why looking at this so-called integration? I don't believe in it, because they are not the type, or they haven't reached that juncture where we are saying we are a failed state, they are a problem onto the country.
So as far as you're concerned, this integration module will not necessarily work. Perhaps there has to be a different approach.
Probably.
That different approach, I believe, is what we're looking for. And Mutala, let me bring you in. We've left you out a bit. Let me bring you into this discussion. Yesterday, you were there. You spoke a lot about your opinions, including what discussions that you've had with your people over drinks. And I mean, these are not so different from some of the things that some of us may have heard on the ground. But you also said that your party, you don't believe it's wrong in your party to create any of these groups. You also said that you would resign as a person, if your party does win power someday and brings or put together groups like this. Do you see a different approach from all that we've been talking about regarding how to deal with this?
Yeah, for
these
all
groupings.
that you just said, indeed, I made those points. But I want to quickly react to both Evans and Doc. I don't think they mean different things. Our problem is economic and social, but the solution is political. This security issue you see, the answer is political. Of course, the experts will have their opinion, but the point is, like Doc said, these two political parties, they create this group. So if you want to go and disband them, and the group that creates, or the institution that creates them still exists. It means they'll create new ones.
But your idea, and I heard you say that yesterday, Mutala, but then this idea doesn't seem really feasible at the moment.
No.
I mean, at the moment, who is talking about banning NPP and NDC? That's
no, that's not what I'm saying.
Perhaps long term.
The media is hammering on disband. I'm saying it's not that easy. And I was misquoted. So what I'm saying is that it's not that easy to say, just go disband them. Because first of all, you look at Article 21, you know you have a problem.
Okay.
And again, you look at the people who wield power. They are in charge. They are creating it. You and I, what power do we have? Even the commission was set by the institution that creates this group. So that's the point I'm making. I'm saying that it's bigger than just say disband them.
Okay.
We have the issue of unemployment. What do you want them to do? That is the reason why.
So that's where we are.
We're talking about.
That's where we are. Imutala, that's where we are. That's where we are basically. After we disband them, what else?
So
next?
I guess that's the thing.
So that's where I agreed with Professor.
Mensah, you agree with the integration?
Of course, you need. If you don't integrate them, they'll become their own brothers.
Well, Evans's position now is that looking at integration, these people, I mean, the situations are different. These integration, the integration.
It does not necessarily mean go and put them to work at national security.
Okay, so exactly. So would you then be for those? Would you then be for those who say that? You should they be added to the existing, or create a different kind of grouping, a different kind of security grouping for them?
There are lots of private institutions that are hiring people to do security jobs. We can easily put all these groups there where they can be identified. Kojo Issa, he works at Mensah. Whatever he does there can be reported back and he can be dealt with. We don't need to put them in the regular police service or military. It is the reason why there is a lot of mistrust in the police services and the military. We don't need them in there, but they can be integrated elsewhere, privately.
Elsewhere. Let me find out, Doc, finally, so if you agree with this, creating a new security agency for these people so that we can identify them for who they are, rather than mixing them up with the already existing police or security agencies. Where do you stand on this?
Hello?
Yes, sir. Please go ahead.
That would also be very ridiculous.
Ridiculous?
I mean, we should ridiculous because we need to understand what security means. Your defense management generally relies on what your horizon says, what kind of security apparatus you need, both for internal and external, whatever. And then you have a problem and therefore you create a new security apparatus to fit into what? And who are the people? What kind of training? What is their background? What kind of national security do you want to have? I'm saying we have a good constitution, a good kind of structure, but we are abusing it by injecting it with this virus because it is just for party activity. They have no training. They are a bunch of bastards who are collected because they can use their muscle to threaten people or use terrorist activity. So if we take out the non-profit, the profit aspect of such a thing, they themselves will find their level. Meanwhile, we can help them rather than, we can just help, not just by integrating them to the Ghana Armed Forces or to any other security agency who have their own standard operating procedure.
Help them as in put them on payroll, because as Professor Henrietta Mensah also says, they are already on payroll, just that they are being paid by the politicians.
Agreed. Then what is their job description?
So what's your suggestion as to where to put them? What to do with them after they are disbanded?
I would really start from making vigilantism a non-profit enterprise. That's the first thing.
And that means doing what exactly?
Come again?
And that means doing what exactly? Making it non-profitable means...
our safety. What happened over there, there should have been at the strategic level a decision to say that, oh, we know that there are arms over there. Then they are the operational level, strategies are adopted, and at the tactical level, they know who is going there and what to look for. And they know how to operate. That will be the police. But these people went there untrained, They know next to nothing.
We're looking right now at the future. You know, how to deal with this situation once and for all. So we're looking at how do we make it unprofitable?
If you want to put them in any organization, what kind of training are you going to give them? What are you going to call them within the framework of your security apparatus? We need to think about all this.
Do you agree with Murtala when he says that enroll them on any of these private security companies, let them work for them so they have an income?
Well, whatever it is. But will they not be beholden? Will they not have their loyalty to a certain party and during elections? What I'm trying to advocate is that we make elections and all these things just through the constitutional setup so that they are not needed. You don't need them.
Okay.
When that thing is done, who are they? Who will come forward to say, I want to be a vigilante after all? And then the police can deal with them. All other agents can deal with them. It will be an enterprise worth not belonging to. Let's start from there. That's the most important thing. If you don't, and you put them somewhere, another will start somewhere, and you have to put him somewhere.
This looks like a very complex issue. Murtala, let me take your very final Murtala Mohammed, let me take your final words on this discussion. You've seen that.
You just quoted me. I told the whole Ghana it's a very complex situation. We need to look at our education. We need to look at unemployment. Both NDC and NPP must sit up and decide not to do this. It takes leadership. Nanado should tell whoever, either Sami Uku or General John Boydu, that I don't want vigilante from today. It ends it. If your mama can do the same, we end it. It takes leadership. So look at your unemployment, concentrate on education, and leaders must.
We've lost Murtala. But Doc, do I still have you there? We've lost Doc as well, but very interesting discussion, and there's no Evans, really, there's no simple answer to this.
I already have my idea for my Ghana Connect conversation, because this is a thinking about it now, it's so
complex.
I think I really thank the Commission, because if they hadn't thrown this in, we'll still be going around in circles,
and just be focusing on Ayawaso.
Because the disband has been a refrain. Every civil society wakes up, but nobody until today had clearly suggested.
I think that people have suggested, but the voices of disband have actually overridden.
No, I mean, I haven't heard anybody suggest clearly what you do with them once you disband. I haven't. This is the first time, but you may disagree with them. But if you do, you need to go the next step and suggest what alternative you have to what the Commission has suggested today. Because listen, it's a Commission's work, and what they're doing is also, and that's why they're investing people like me, I'm not an expert, is to listen to people they believe can help. And thankfully, they listen to radio. At least they listen to Joy and JoyNews.
Of course they do.
Right? I mean, and so this conversation, they will hear. And these individuals on the Commission are human beings. They will know if they have to amend their position based on public opinion, because you're working in our interest. Or amend it slightly, not change, but amend it. Because I see the fundamental wisdom in what Henrietta Mensah Bonsu and Commissioner Short suggested. If we don't like the fact that we are integrating them into security apparatus, I think the fundamental suggestion is integrate them somewhat into something.
That's the problem. Somewhat and where.
Do not leave them just there because you've disbanded and disarmed. And I think that's where the bigger conversation should be. As in, what do we do if we are not integrating them into security? What do we integrate them into? Can we have a state-backed system that gives them, like we're doing for example, like this is okay to me, like we're doing for the mining sector. The guys in the Galamsey that we've removed, government came up with the whole plan to give them other skills other than Galamsey.
It's not been an easy road, once again.
No, but nothing is easy. Nothing is easy.
And it's not been a smooth process through and through.
But government had a plan, an alternative plan to train them, and that training has been happening in alternative livelihoods, right? And I'm saying that maybe we can learn a lesson from there. That if you disband them, disarm them, let's have another strategy that gives them alternative livelihood.
Alternative
Right?
livelihood, which
And
is what...
I think that is fundamentally what the commission is suggesting tonight.
Which is what Professor Mensah has been basically saying. He says that these people, you give them a sense of duty, and they will channel all of that energy into that sense of duty, and that can become something for the country, something more positive. But Evans, I really wanted to ask you this question. How did it feel for you? I mean, what was going through your mind?
It's interesting you asked that. I must say that I didn't prepare for this. I just woke up, spoke to my colleagues who were on the scene, because I wasn't there. And what I only asked them was, tell me what you saw. And I told them what you saw. Because what I thought was, I'm just going to sit there and tell them, because really, well, a media person, what more can I say? I'm going to tell them, in essence, what we saw, what we reported. Give them the videos and leave.
I'm sure your expectation was that there were going to be a lot of questions about
the incident,
the incident itself.
as in how we reported it,
or
what we saw,
exactly,
and then leave. That's what I thought.
And the bullets and the gunshot sounds.
That is what I saw. That's what I thought, and I thought this is going to be walk in the park. You know, just going to give them the thing and leave. You notice though, they didn't ask. The questions on the incident was like 2%.
Yes, from the especially from the lawyer, and then after that it was more about vigilantes.
Broadly about,
because that's really the bigger question.
And I'm like, but the first time he asked that question, you told me how I feel. I'm like, it took me to I'm like,
why are you asking me this?
Should I? Because when I was coming in my head, I was saying to myself, if they ask me something that is advisory, I wouldn't say it. I wouldn't say, because I don't think
keep your opinions to yourself.
But then the only thing that then, so I was thinking while he asked me that question, should I still go with my was what I thought before coming there, which is, I'm not touching this, I'm sorry, and the commission can't compel me really to say it, and I'll just go and deal with just what we did as reporters.
I mean, if you don't know really.
But then he asked a question at the beginning, how many years have you done this? Have you done elections?
And based on your experience.
And I'm like, oh yeah, I mean, I must have done something in the last 15 years in covering elections that at least can help the commission.
That should help this conversation.
Yeah, and so when he asked me, that's where I went to. I'm like, okay, so just draw from your experience. And the thing about it is, it wasn't difficult, because what we do as journalists is simply hand the microphones over to the audience to, in essence, speak to the issues. And I've been doing that for 15 years. And so you have a collection of voices in your head. From everything from vigilantism to elections, and I said, okay, let me just go there. It's a very convenient place to go as a journalist, and just go there and sort of do a collection of some of these voices and tell the commission, because really, in doing a constitution, you go around the country, right? And this is 15 years of talking to people around the country. That's in my head,
right?
Exactly, that's in my head that I can just give you. Which is exactly what I did, and really feeling, when it started.
I'm sure you're feeling very good about yourself.
No. When we started, I had a small. When they said it's time to go, then I had butterflies in my tummy a bit. But when we started and you finished swearing, sat down, and I'm like, okay, well.
Well, we were very happy in the newsroom. We were super proud of you. I mean. When this commission puts together their reports, we know that JoyNews had a great contribution to it, and hopefully it helps us deal with this problem of vigilantism, which the Professor Mensah is referring to as private militia who are reporting to warlords, people who have made themselves warlords in these political parties. We'll see how this goes, but hopefully for the best. Just received a Evans Mensah, thank you very much, by the way. Evans Mensah is head of our political desk today, and today he made his turn at the Emoshot Commission, helping with that conversation that's ongoing. So we just received a press statement that's coming in from Kodeo, Ghana. I'm going to try and go through it quickly. It says to represent a statement issued by Civic Forum Initiative, the Institute for Democratic Governance, Coalition of Domestic Election Observers, Kodeo, and the Center for Democratic Development, CDD, at an emergency meeting held on Thursday, February 14, 2019. It raised the representatives of civil society organizations. So it's basically giving you a background of who was there, who was represented and what it was about. They said that the IDEC auditorium was to review the security situation following the violence that occurred at Lapawalishi during the Ayawaso West Wogan constituency by-election. And the second point says, after an exhaustive evaluation of the political and security environment prevailing in the country in the wake of the Ayawaso West Wogan constituency by-election violence, they've noted the following. I'll try and summarize this, maybe take the first paragraph and the final one, so we'll bring you a breakdown of it in our subsequent bulletins. It says, A, the total condemnation of political parties, civil society organizations, and the international community of the violence perpetrated by state security personnel during the by-election. B, the growing threat of thuggery and hooliganism of illegally armed groups, euphemistically referred to as political vigilante groups within the ranks of the two major political parties in Ghana. C, the establishment by the government on February 6, a four-member commission of inquiry to conduct investigations into the circumstances surrounding the violence that erupted. So these are things that they've noted, basically. And as I said, this is just coming in right now, so I'm doing a very quick touch and go of it for you. Let's see what's in the final paragraph. It says, okay, looks like I have to come here before. It says the Commission of Inquiry to continue to operate. These are some of the things they're calling for. They're appealing for. The Commission of Inquiry to continue to operate in a transparent and open manner to allay the fears of all who have expressed concerns about its establishment. They also talk about demonstrating their commitment to supporting good faith efforts to deal with the threat of illegally armed groups. And they said they will engage principal national stakeholders to discuss the ways forward, which is what we've just started. We'll see how that goes.